Welcome to Bad at Goodbyes. Each week on our show, we spotlight species from the IUCN Critically Endangered Red List. These are plants and animals with decreasing populations, nearing the edges of extinction. We'll share species research, information, and conservation proposals, and then we'll spend a part of the show opening and holding a space for contemplation and awe. We'll perform a kind of soundscape of gentleness and reflection and maybe of grieving. There's a very low likelihood that any of these species will survive the 21st century, and so perhaps we might acknowledge their passage with a moment of our attention, a recognition of our kinship, and with a commitment to personal and systemic change. Thank you for listening. On today's show, we consider the Greater Bermuda Land Snail. The Greater Bermuda Land Snail is a critically endangered mollusk native to the island of Bermuda in the Atlantic Ocean east of the North American continent. The Greater Bermuda Land Snail is a relatively large land snail with adult shells reaching up to 1 inch in diameter, so like the size of a bottle cap. Pretty small, but compared to the also endangered lesser Bermuda land snail, whose shell is about 1/3 of an inch in diameter, or to the Bermuda microsnail Vertigo marki, who has a 1/16 of an inch shell, our Greater Bermuda land snail earns its name. The Greater Bermuda land snail's shell is a flattened disc shape with 5 to 6 whorls of varied coloration. So pale yellows, ambers, greens, deep reds, browns, often with like very dark brown streaks or speckles. The shell surface is smooth and glossy with small visible growth lines. There is great variation and diversity between different individuals' shells, and well, they're really beautiful, like tiny twirled galaxies. Snails grow their shells. Shell material is secreted by a specialized organ in the mantle. The mantle is like a fold of skin that covers the snail's internal organs. And the mantle's edge contains these glands that produce a mixture of proteins and minerals, which are then deposited in layers, gradually building up the shell over time. Shell growth begins even before birth. The initial shell, called a protoconch, is formed within the egg. And then once hatched, the snail continues to add new material to the edge of the shell, resulting in this spiral pattern, the characteristic kind of twirling that we see on a shell. As the snail grows, the shell increases in size and thickness. So new shell material is added at the outer edge, and then that results in these visible growth rings which we can use to estimate a snail's age. The snail's shell is shelter, armor, protection from predation, camouflage, and it helps regulate water loss. And unlike other invertebrates that swap shells as they grow, the snail keeps its shell throughout its life, and can even repair like cracks and breaks, secreting calcium carbonate to mend a shell injury. The safety of its hard shell is so vital because its body is a little squish blob. It is thin-skinned, it's soft, it's moist, and it is an invertebrate, so that means it does not have a skeletal backbone. Invertebrate are a wildly expansive and diverse class of species that includes insects like ants and bees, butterflies, clams, coral, crabs, earthworm, jellyfish, lobster, octopi, oyster, shrimp, spider, and of course, our snails. So snails, lacking this skeletal backbone, instead have a hydrostatic skeleton, which means their body is supported by fluid pressure. It's like imagine a water balloon. The water inside pushes outward against the balloon's walls, creating pressure that gives the balloon its form and firmness. Inside the snail is a cavity called a coelom, which holds most of the internal organs and is filled with a pressurized fluid that provides a kind of internal support system for the snail's body. Like a water balloon, this is an extremely flexible and dynamic support structure, which allows the snail to somewhat change its shape and its size. For example, it can retract entirely into its shell when threatened, and this hydrostatic skeleton also facilitates its locomotion. Snail locomotion is totally amazing. Their foot is a strong, flexible organ located on the underside of its body, which contains a network of muscles that contract in a wave-like pattern, so pushing downward in a series of ripples that propel the snail forward. So this muscle action works in tandem with its hydrostatic skeleton, which allows the foot to deform and reshape to generate this wave action and the necessary pressure for forward movement. For many snail species, including our Greater Bermuda Land Snail, this muscle action needs a little lubrication. So they'll also secrete a specialized mucus to reduce friction and enable smooth movement. So the mucus, which is produced by glands in the foot, creates a slippery track on which the snail glides. The mucus has protective qualities and is both lubricating and semi-adhesive. So it allows the snail to traverse a variety of surfaces, so even over rough and sharp textures. And the semi-adhesive qualities allow for vertical climbing. In the dream, me, and Alice Coltrane, and Albert Einstein, and Mary Oliver, and Stephen Jay Gould are playing free jazz in my practice space. Tempo is relative, Al says, and we all nod. And in the dream, I'm reminded of the privilege of inconveniences. to walk to a place because you have the time. To be slow under moonlight safely. To meander in the storm because I know my home is dry and warm. Sometimes when we are walking together, I say to my nephew, "Hey, take it easy, bub, slow down. Maybe we will be a few minutes late, but at my pace, we'll have longer together." In the dream. The Greater Bermuda Land Snail has a flattened, cylindrical body that when extended is about 2 inches long. It is gray, bluish gray, brownish gray in color. It has a distinct head with 2 pairs of tentacles. These are the primary sense organs. The upper tentacles, called amatophores, or eye stalks, are long, protruding from the top of the head, and the very tip of each holds a simple eye, capable of detecting light and dark, movement, and basic shapes. The lower tentacles are shorter and generally downward facing, primarily used to sense, touch, and smell. All 4 tentacles can move independently, allowing the snail to gather information from all different directions. And both sets are retractable. The snail can quickly withdraw the tentacles into its head, for protection. The snail's mouth is located on the underside of its head. It feeds using its radula. This is a ribbon, like a tongue-like structure in the mouth that's covered in rows of tiny, tiny teeth. And so the snail extends its radula out of its mouth and scrapes these teeth against a food source. I imagine this is a little bit like sandpaper, so the teeth scrape off and then catch and hold food particles, and then the radula is retracted, pulling the food bits into the snail's mouth. The Greater Bermuda Land Snail is an herbivore, and they are opportunistic feeders. They will consume any available algae, palm nut, and decomposing plant matter, specifically dead palm fronds. They are most active at night to minimize water loss and avoid predators. During the day, to regulate body temperature and moisture, they shelter in cool, damp places, like under rocks, logs, leaf litter, or in crevices. Their flattened shell shape is thought to be an adaptation for this behavior, allowing them to squeeze into small places. The Greater Bermuda Land Snail is hermaphroditic, meaning they possess both male and female reproductive organs. That said, they do require a mate for viable reproduction. And we have observed some courtship behavior in which potential mates will circle one another, gently touching their eye stalks before copulation. Copulation is like a mutual sperm transfer, so both individuals will release sperm within the other individual, which then fertilizes eggs internally. The eggs are laid in clutches ranging from 10 to 50 eggs, and once hatched, the young snails are born totally independent, immediately able to forage for food and seek shelter. They're believed to reach reproductive maturity in roughly 18 months, and total lifespan is estimated at 2 to 3 years. The fossil record suggests that the land snail has lived on the Bermuda Islands for over 1 million years. The Greater Bermuda Land Snail was once widespread across the Bermuda archipelago. So this is a group of islands located in the North Atlantic Ocean. It's roughly 650 miles east of the North American coast. The land snail's native habitat is subtropical, moist broadleaf forest. And so this is an ecosystem characterized by Bermuda palm and bay grape, with an understory of shrubs, ferns, and grasses, and a forest floor covered in the leaf litter, stones, and decaying logs, under which the snail shelters. Bermuda's climate is subtropical, with warm, humid summers and mild winters. Summer temperatures typically reach highs in the upper 80s, while winter temperatures rarely drop below 50 degrees. The snail shares these islands with Bermuda skink, Jamaica dogwood, eastern bluebird, green heron, Bermuda cedar, cloudless sulfur butterfly, American coot, olivewood, fennel, red land crab, Bermuda rock lizard, white-eyed vero, inkberry, hurricane spider, Bermuda buckeye butterfly, land hermit crab, and so many, many more. On Bad Goodbyes, we tend to want to give most of our attention to the species at hand. But I'd like to sidebar briefly because the Greater Bermuda Land Snail plays this really vital role in human scientific history. Bermuda land snails were the research subject of the doctoral dissertation of American paleontologist, evolutionary biologist, educator, and public intellectual Stephen Jay Gould. Gould, while studying the snail's fossil record in Bermuda, developed, with Niles Eldredge, the theory of punctuated equilibrium. This idea, first proposed in 1972, is that evolution sometimes occurs in bursts of rapid change between long periods of relative stability. And so a species will exhibit minimal evolutionary differentiation over a long time. That's the equilibrium part. But that will be punctuated by brief periods, often driven by new natural selection pressures of rapid evolutionary change and speciation. Punctuated equilibrium. This theory, which is now so widely accepted that you may have studied it in school, is not a replacement for Darwin's gradualism. Darwin suggested that evolution proceeds at a slow and steady pace. Punctuated equilibrium is instead a complement to this concept. So evolution is both slow and steady, and also sometimes punctuated by periods of rapid change. And so Gould's study of the Greater Bermuda Land Snail in the mid-20th century significantly widened our view and understanding of evolutionary history. And lastly, I just really like Stephen Jay Gould. His profoundly well-argued and researched refutation of racist methodologies in the historic measurement of human intelligence had a really big impact on me when I was a young learner. The book is called The Mismeasure of Man, and it's a reminder of how bias and toxic ideology can pollute even our most rigorous truth-seeking, like the scientific method. It's also a reminder that science and justice can be in real conversation in ways that uplift both. When Gould is studying the snail in the 1960s, their population is widespread across the Bermuda Islands. When he returns again in the 1990s, he finds their population shockingly and significantly reduced. This is a story of classic human hubris and short-sightedness. So in the time between Gould's studies, the predatory rosy wolf snail had been intentionally introduced to Bermuda in an effort to control the population of another introduced invasive snail, the milk snail. So the rosy wolf snail population exploded, feeding on, as you may have guessed, not the milk snail, but instead on native snail species like the Greater Bermuda Land Snail. In the 1990s, the Greater Bermuda Land Snail was considered extinct in the wild. That is, until the discovery of two small remaining wild populations. So one on Ports Island. This is a tiny, less than quarter of a square mile, relatively undeveloped island of second growth forest. That's roughly a mile from the main island. And then the other population, which was found in 2014, unbelievably, in an alley behind an ice cream shop in the capital city of Hamilton. This is one of the most rare snails in the world, and roughly 300 individuals are surviving in the concrete cracks of this overgrown alley in the middle of one of Bermuda's largest cities. Individuals collected from the Hamilton Alley population became the basis of captive breeding programs at the Bermuda Aquarium Museum and Zoo, and at the UK's London Zoo and Chester Zoo. The Hamilton population was then relocated to an outer island when building developers wanted to power wash the alley. So these captive breeding programs have had mixed success. From 2016 to 2022, over 100,000 Greater Bermuda Land Snail have been reintroduced across 27 sites in Bermuda. 10 of those sites are small woodland island nature reserves where predators are either absent or controlled. A 2022 report suggests that 4 of these sites appear to be thriving. with the introduced population reproducing and spreading out further into the habitat. That said, 2 other sites have totally failed for unknown reasons, and monitoring of the remaining sites is in process. And so these captive breeding, reintroduction, and habitat restoration programs continue, but nevertheless, the Greater Bermuda Land Snail has been considered critically endangered on the IUCN Red List since 2019, and their population is considered to be in decline. Accounts estimate there are less than 4,000 Greater Bermuda Land Snail remaining in the wild. Information for today's show about the Greater Bermuda Land Snail was compiled from Soft Robotics, Volume 11, EnviroTalk, Volume 87, Number 1, Bulletin of the Museum of Comparative Zoology, Volume 138, Issue 3, from the Royal Gazette, October 2014, from the Government of Bermuda Department of Environment and Natural Resources, from Oryx, Volume 56, Number 1, from the IUCN, from the PBS Evolution Library, from the Institute of Environment and Natural Resources, Bermuda, from the BIAZA Field Conservation and Native Species Conference, this is January 2020, from the Journal of Zoo and Aquarium Research, Volume 11, Number 3, and from Wikipedia. For more information about the conservation and protection of the Greater Bermuda Land Snail, please visit the Bermuda Department of Environment and Natural Resources at environment.bm. And so in a moment, I would like to perform some music in hopes of opening a space to be in contemplation of the other lives with whom we share our earth. I do want to clarify that I don't intend to put meaning upon the Greater Bermuda Land Snail or extract meaning from it. Instead, my thinking here is to hold space or time or pause in order to be in contemplation, considering my own relationship to other life, in particular, as that life may near extinction. So I will sit in the space of sound and awe and contemplation, and I warmly invite you to join me. I honor the life force of the Greater Bermuda Land Snail. I will carry its human name in my record, and I am so grateful to have shared time on our planet with this tiny, gorgeous being. I lament the ways in which I and my species have harmed and diminished this species. I grieve. And so, in the name of the Greater Bermuda Land Snail, I pledge to reduce my consumption and my carbon footprint and my wastefulness. I pledge to acknowledge and attempt to address the costs of my actions and inactions. And I pledge to resist the harm of plant and animal kin or their habitats by individuals, corporations, and governments. I pledge my song to the witness and memory of all life, to a broad celebration of biodiversity, and to the total liberation of all beings. This has been Bad at Goodbyes. Thank you for listening. Until next time, let's take care of each other and all of our kin.